Alright, let's get down to business. No. Capcom does not care about their female characters. I keep seeing these men, not even women, and some women pull up to the patriarchy and think that they get a seat to the table just because they say women bad. They think they'll get something, they'll get somewhere. Well, you won't. You will not get anywhere. Woman simping. You will not get anywhere. But I've been seeing these men on Twitter talking about, oh, well, Capcom, they're making fun of people saying that when we say women characters in Resident Evil get sidelined and bootcut, they love to talk about, well, Claire got her own game in Code Veronica and Jill is this, that, and the third. All right, let's talk about it, shall we? And let's go through each Resident Evil, starting from 0 and going to 8, okay? 0. Rebecca Chambers is one of the weakest characters in gaming history. She's right next to Sakura from Naruto. She is up there with her. Ironically, she is also a medic. They did that purposefully to hinder the people playing Resident Evil 0. I highly recommend you guys remaking Resident Evil 0 to where rather than having to control 2 characters at once, which is the dumbest thing on earth, you make it co-op. Because it's almost impossible to play that game without just doing one character at a time, putting them through. I literally have to play as Billy the entire time. I took Rebecca Chambers' gun, ammo, everything until she was the one that I had to control. Because it's almost impossible to play 2 characters at once and also survive. So you made Rebecca weak. She's always been weak. In Resident Evil 1, she is weak. She is a weakling. She is weak. Sure, Jill can hold more items. Maybe I don't know if that's a microaggression to, oh, she's got more bag. Like, okay, that's just whatever. I don't care. I'm not here for that. I don't care. She can hold more stuff. Whoop-de freaking do. That's a good thing. That's a good thing that you guys gave her something at least that's comparable to being more durable. Like Billy was in 0. Resident Evil 2. Claire, okay, whatever. Interesting. Let's talk about Resident Evil 2. I keep having to defend my argument, which I will still keep. Leon is a glorified side character. People love to pull up to me and talk about how, well, if Leon's a side character, then Claire's a side character. Oh, okay, fine. Guess what? Leon's still getting the Tom Cruise service. He is getting every movie dedicated to him. He gets to kiss any girl he feels like. He gets to go to dinner with anyone he wants to, unless they get broken in half, because you no longer need her anymore. Leon has gotten more shine in the movies than any person, and he wasn't in Resident Evil 1. Don't come at me talking about, oh, that doesn't matter. How does that not matter? If Thanos snapped Resident Evil 1 out of existence, all of them would follow, even 0, because it's a prequel. You dumb idiots. What's the point of having numbers if numbers don't matter? If you want to play games, if you want to play the stupid dum-dum game and say that Claire is as good as Leon, then why doesn't Claire have the same amount of movies dedicated to her? Exactly. Shut up. You have no answer. You just like to suck Leon off. Resident Evil 3, Nemesis. The only reason why it's called 3 is because it did so well. It's because it did so well. If it didn't do half as well, it would have been called Resident Evil Nemesis. She would have gotten the side boo-boo treatment, just like Claire did in Code Veronica. Speaking of Code Veronica, I personally am fine with Chris going to go save her in Code Veronica. I was fine with that. But it has been brought to my attention through discussion of Resident Evil lore with people who actually know their lore, not just random people talking about, oh, I hate this game because I hate this game. Not giving any sort of reason, just saying it's dumb and everyone who plays it is dumb. Talking to actual people who know Resident Evil lore, they have an issue with Code Veronica because she does get the damsel treatment. I can understand that and I can accept that. She got the damsel treatment in Code Veronica. Like I said, me personally, I'm fine with Chris going to save her. I'm fine with Chris Redfield because they're brother and sister. Why don't they have more games together, they're brother and sister? Makes no sense. Whatever. She becomes I have said this before in previous videos. Claire Redfield becomes a wailing widow. A wailing widow. The moment Steve Burnside is dead. She just becomes helpless. We don't even get to play as her. So I suggest in a remake you make of Code Veronica, which yes, you better do it. You better. You should be given the option to play as Claire Redfield or Chris Redfield to defeat Alexia Ashford. Yes, absolutely yes. That should have always been there. But I won't hold it against you if you do it in the remake. That's all you gotta freaking do. Resident Evil 4. Ada Wong was an afterthought. Don't come at me with nothing. She's only there to be oogled over by Leon S. Kennedy. Why was she even there to begin with? She adds really nothing to the story except to retcon anything in the future of the reason why Leon couldn't basically get the sample, because she's the one that took it from him. To be honest, Ada does more than Leon even does. All he does is get his job done. Ada rings the bell for him. Ada throws the grenade launcher for him. Ada freaking kills Krauser. But that was in hindsight, wasn't it? That was in hindsight. Literally taking her out of the situation only stops that one thing that he wasn't there to do to begin with. He wasn't there to get Las Plagas. He was there to get the president's daughter back. So technically, he didn't really need to get the serum. He's not BSAA. He's not a former STARS member. Like I said, if anyone's going to be put on a pedestal, have movies dedicated to them based on Resident Evil lore, it should be the following. Albert Wesker, who was in the first game. Chris Redfield, who was in the first game. Jill Valentine, who was in the first game. You know who wasn't in the first game? Claire Redfield. That's fine. That's literally 100% fine. Even though she's related to Chris Redfield and Leon S. Kennedy is related to no one knows Leon S. Kennedy. Aside from Claire when 2 happens, no one knew this fool. Why is he getting so many movies dedicated to him? Patriarchy. Patriarchy. I answered your own question. Patriarchy. Don't come at me and tell me, oh, look at all these girls in the... Shut up. Shut up. Guess what? Who's got more movies dedicated to them? It's not Jill Valentine who was in the first game. It's not Chris Redfield even. The reason why people don't prefer Chris Redfield over Leon S. Kennedy is the way they are treating him. The white knight treatment. Chris Redfield has too much association with feminine energy. Jill Valentine is basically connected to him, and so is Claire Redfield. Leon S. Kennedy is connected to no one but a love interest. Ada has yet to get her own game. Therefore, she is irrelevant. Don't come at me saying, oh, well, I don't care what they were going to do with Resident Evil 8. I'll get there when we get there. Resident Evil 5. Now, this is a doozy, isn't it? In it. So, we've got the first black protagonist you can play as a main character. As a main character, like, get out of here with this remake with Marvin. That's great. He gets more to do, supposedly, because I haven't played Resident Evil 2, the originals. I'm not going to front that and say that that's true. I just heard people say, well, Marvin got a lot more to do in remake. And I'm like, okay, I can only take your word for it. But she's a female protagonist. And interestingly enough, despite AI going both ways with Chris and with Sheva, people insist on saying Sheva's dumb solely because her AI is dumb. First of all, that makes no sense. Did I say Rebecca was dumb in the critique? I may say that as a joke when I'm playing Resident Evil 0. I called her weak because she is weak. Because y'all made her weak. Sheva's not dumb. The AI is dumb. And the AI, hey, how about this? How about you play Resident Evil 5 with people instead of playing with yourself? Freaking lonely loser. But yeah, Sheva's there, and she's the first black female protagonist you can play as a main character, and everyone hates her because of her AI. Interesting. It's not because of her AI, just to let you know. It's not. But interestingly enough, almost every woman in this video game gets the freaking shaft. Resident Evil 5 is when Chris goes to Africa, and for some reason, someone who would have been chosen in the territory in which this base is located, an Italian woman, Anglo-Saxon. Excella's working in Trisel, Africa. We barely get to see her except when she's oogling over Wesker. So that's gross. But Excella's not, we're not talking about Excella. We're talking about the actual main characters. So Jill, why did you guys supposedly, word on the street is the only reason why we got Lost in Nightmare or whatever, or the Lost Nightmare or whatever, DLC for Resident Evil 5 was because people were complaining, quote unquote, complaining that you couldn't play as Jill, even though Jill's from the first game. Why wouldn't we play as Jill? Strange. Not that she should have, it was like, oh, do you want a black woman or do you want Jill Valentine? They kind of made it seem like that. They kind of put two groups of people who are equally as upset and maybe somebody a little more for obvious reasons against each other. Interesting. So just to let you know, when you've got control over a video game, you can do whatever you want in it. Don't blame anybody else. Talk about how you don't have the resources. How about that? Don't blame the fans. Don't blame the people who are buying your products. So as I was saying, Sheva barely, like, the fact that people hated her so much, Capcom will use that as an excuse. If you ever ask them why isn't Sheva in any other games, they will say with a straight face, it's because she didn't have popularity. With a straight face. When that's not what that is. Jill Valentine is from the first game. I don't know why people think that just because there's a lot of games, you get to pick and choose which matter and which don't. The first game will always matter to the sequels, always. Without the first games, there would be no sequels or prequels. That's why they're called sequels and prequels. A little side note, I didn't talk about Space Jam because it doesn't matter to me. But you know what does matter to me? Culture. And for those uncultured swines saying that, oh, Space Jam 2 is a kid's movie, then they should have called it something else because it's a sequel. It's a sequel. Sequels are made for people who watch the originals. We were all children then. This is made for us. Freaking take your children to go see something else because Space Jam Legacy is a sequel. It's made for the people who watched Space Jam. Now back to your irregularly scheduled program. Jill Valentine. She was given the opportunity to be a character that you play as in the DLC, which the DLC should have been a part of the game, by the way. You pulled a Kingdom Hearts 3 and you gave us something as DLC that should have already been placed in the game. You had ample amount of opportunities. You just wanted to sell us something. By the end of Resident Evil 5, Jill and Chris should have kissed. The reason why they didn't was because while this was going on in this time, let's talk about the moment this crap came out, they were looking to Chris to be the beacon of masculinity. They were still trying to draw in crowds with his personality. He was supposed to be a symbol that everyone has now seeped that energy into Leon S. Kennedy. That's why he's in all of the movies. He's the main character, they think. But it's not the game, so it doesn't matter. They couldn't have had Chris. They did all these things like, don't shoot her for me, and all these little tag things for us, the regular people, to actually care about these characters. That's what your job is. But at the end, they didn't kiss or nothing. Like, are you serious? And that easily transitions into Resident Evil 6. What a smooth transition. So first off, you've got characters in here that who are they to me? Why should I care about Helen or Helena, whatever her name is? I don't even remember her name. Why should I care about her? Please explain. Please explain. Why should I care about Sherry Birkin? She's just a survivor. Oh, she's a mutant now? She's mutant? Why are they allowing her to run around? In an instant, she could turn evil. Why was she able to run around with Jake Mueller? Y'all did Claire Redfield and Jill Valentine super duper dirty. Oscar to Grouch dirty. Above anything that I say in this video, Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield, and Rebecca Chambers should have been in Resident Evil 6. It seemed like a last hoorah. It seemed like the end. And it kind of was for a generation of people who don't really care about Ethan Winters or anything that he has to do at all whatsoever. No, like the people who cared about Resident Evil 6 being good and not what it was don't care about Ethan Winters. I promise you. This is the way we were supposed to play Resident Evil 6. We were supposed to play as Leon first because it's the way Resident Evil kind of looked a little bit. Slightly action-oriented with a big emphasis on horror. Along with Leon S. Kennedy, there was Helen, or whatever her name is. I'm calling her Helen because I don't remember. And we're supposed to care about her sister dying. As I've said in previous videos, and I will continue to say this, I laughed when her sister died in her arms because why should I care about a character we don't know? If you had to make some fictitious, like, why is it that you guys can't do nothing but like animate women crying? Why is that the only thing you can do? Maybe you need to stop. Maybe you need to stop. Claire Redfield should have been in the same group as Leon S. Kennedy. Claire Redfield, it was literally screaming in your face. Why wasn't Claire Redfield juxtaposed with Leon S. Kennedy for maybe the last time? We didn't know until we played the game. We didn't know. That was the whole good thing about Resident Evil 6. No one knew how it was going to end. No one knew who Jake Mueller was until we saw the preview, because I think you actually showed us and told us, because not enough people really cared about this game, to be fair. Not enough people cared about this game. You made this game so far from 5 that it didn't matter. No one cared at that point, especially when you killed off Albert Wesker. You killed him off. It's dumb. Dum-dums. So that's out of the way. You gave Claire Redfield, here you go. You about to be in Revelations. Just put this in your mouth and like eat it. Like 3 years later, you literally told that to Claire and she just stood there. Like, are you serious? So let's go to the next person we were supposed to play as in Resident Evil 6. Chris Redfield with Pierce. I don't care about Pierce. I don't care that he died in the end. I don't care about him. And I definitely don't care about this whole sad sob story. Why is it that after saving Jill Valentine, love interest supposedly based on the little thing that y'all typed up, rather than showing us, you told us that Jill Valentine is now a Redfield in some hidden secret thing that like I never even saw until literally recently, 2021. How long ago did this crap come out? And I just figured that out and I just found it. I played Resident Evil 6 despite the many bugs at the beginning because it was an online game. Even when it's not an online game, y'all have crazy crap bugs. Freaking get it together. If it's not ready, don't send it out. That's when you be putting in RE-verse. That's when you be putting in crap that don't matter. When we're waiting on other games, not right at launch of a game that's already an installment. But I digress from that. Chris and Pierce. Maybe if you guys weren't such sexist losers who get triggered when their mom walks into a room because you can't stand women so much. Maybe we could have had Jill Valentine juxtaposed with Chris Redfield. And then we would have figured out they were married based on their banter. And guess what? People have good relationships. Just because you saw your mom and dad fight all your life doesn't mean every other mom and dad is the same way. Maybe they have a good relationship. Maybe we don't have to hear them talk about, well, maybe if you asked for directions, maybe if you would listen to directions. We don't need that. We don't need that. 2021, we don't need that. And another thing, back when this was being made, we didn't need that then either. We never actually needed it. I know you're shocked from that revelation, pun intended, but we don't need that. We don't need I hate my wife banter. We don't need my husband's a jerk banter anymore. We never did. So you can leave that excuse at the door where your dad was the last time you saw him, okay? Leave it there. There was no excuse for not having Jill Valentine in Resident Evil 6 right next to Chris Redfield in his campaign. It could have been his campaign if you wanted to call it Chris's campaign. It didn't matter because it was still an online game. Someone was going to be playing as the other character. And why did it have to be Pierce? And why did it have to be him skulking and crying in a bottle about losing his men for the millionth time? Y'all have at this point made him very unreliable. Like I said before, in the first game, anybody who died, it was out of his control. He was a test subject. He was a rat, basically. He was a little rat. He was a test hamster. He was being tested by Albert Wesker. The whole team was. And guess what? He passed with flying colors. Guess what? He saved Claire Redfield. There are multiple instances in history, an RE history, of Chris Redfield being very reliable. This not a hero bullcrap that started here makes no sense. Because even in Resident Evil 5, he was a very reliable person. And so what? He had steroids, okay? It's not like he's going to the Olympics. Like, y'all were laughing and making jokes like, oh my goodness, it's so funny that he's punching a boulder. Isn't it hilarious that Leon S. Kennedy is using a motorcycle as a weapon when he's got a gun on his hip? Isn't that hilarious? But one is being treated like a god and the other one's being treated like he can't be relied on. Okay, interesting. Even when Leon S. Kennedy was drunk in Vendetta, he still could aim straight, while Chris Redfield could not aim straight with something right in front of him. You don't believe me? Go watch Vendetta. Or how about watch my video on Vendetta? Go to my channel, check it out. So, now that we're done talking about how you gave Jill the shaft and Claire, neglecting them for Helen who, Pierce what? Let's go to the next person we were supposed to play as after Chris. Jake Mueller and Sherry Birkin. That was the third group we were supposed to play as. This is the order that they intended for us to play the game in. So I don't care about Albert Wesker's not son, because I don't believe he's his son. First of all, they don't really look a lot alike. You tried it, but it failed. I don't care about this dude who we've never seen before, who comes out of nowhere, who's his mom. When was Wesker going having children with people? Was the woman artificially inseminated? Like, there's so many questions that get brought up when that could have literally been thrown out the window. That could have literally, like, please, in the best world possible, the best world imaginable, this is how I would have set up Resident Evil 6. We get out Sherry Birkin completely. Guess what? She could have been a person we saw, like a little Easter, like, oh, hey, like a little side mission. It's me, Sherry Birkin. I'm older now. Bye. And that was it. Like, we didn't need her to be playable. No one was asking for Sherry Birkin to be playable. No one was asking for that. Who? Please stand up if you were. Please tell me. I would love to hear it. I would love to be proven wrong. Someone tell me who wanted Sherry Birkin in exchange for getting rid of Jill Valentine and Claire Redfield and Rebecca Chambers. Tell me. My ears are open. No one. So, at this point, we take out Sherry Birkin and this whole story of Jake Mueller being the son of Albert Wesker, whom is dead at this point, so why do we care about his son? It was just a cop-out because you guys didn't know where to go from killing off the best villain you ever have created. So you stupid dum-dums. Take them out. Leon S. Kennedy be partnered with Claire Redfield for one portion. Hear me out. This emulates Resident Evil 2. Y'all are really good at emulating your own bullcrap. Just like in Degeneration was basically like a pseudo Resident Evil 2. Go watch my video on that movie. And it would have been cute. It would have been a cute callback for them to work together again. Isn't that cute? Freaking amazing. So the next one, Chris can still be here. Guess who he would be with? Sheva. Yes, Sheva. Because she's in Resident Evil 5. That's an installment. Y'all love to talk about how Code Veronica isn't nothing and won't never be nothing because it doesn't have a number next to it. Even though I do believe Roman numeral X is 10. Not that it's the 10th installment or nothing, but it's just interesting. It's just interesting that y'all be just slandering it just because they ain't got no number. Technically it do. But we would have Sheva because Sheva was just in Resident Evil 5. What was the point of going to Africa and doing all that nonsense if we weren't going to talk about Sheva never again? Like, just want to know. So from Resident Evil 5, 6 will be transitioned into. And from that I say, Albert Wesker should still be alive at this point. Maybe mutated, but alive. And he should have succeeded in trying to destroy the world. Because y'all basically destroyed the world in 6 anyway. And by the world, I mean, I think it's China. I don't know. I can't remember where it is. But I know it's in a big place. And it takes place in other places as well. And the president of the United States turns into a zombie. So don't come at me. At this point, that whole crap should have been because of Wesker. I literally can't remember the villain of Resident Evil 6 to save my life. If someone said, okay, you're going to explode in 2 seconds. If you don't tell me that, dude, I'd explode because I have no idea what his name is. The villain of Resident Evil 6. Can you believe that? Every villain, we could say who it is. But Resident Evil 6 is something that if you were to ask the the hardest core of fans, they'd be like, I don't know. They would have no clue. I can describe what he looks like. He's Anglo. He's got black hair, I think. Don't remember what color eyes he has. I just remember he turning into a dinosaur, which was crazy. Acid trip, man, honestly. So let me digress. Chris and Sheva would be a group. Yes, Chris and Sheva would be a group because Resident Evil 5 just happened. So they would still be in the party together. Perhaps something happens and Leon S. Kennedy and Claire are separated. Sheva and Chris are separated. Claire finds Chris. That is another mission. Jake Mueller, like I said, does not exist. Sherry Birkin is just a cameo. She's just a cameo. Worthless. The next group would be Jill Valentine and Carlos. Yes. Because Resident Evil 3 happened. And y'all act like it didn't. Carlos would come back. And guess what? Rebecca Chambers would also be here, and she would be alone. You know why? Because she needs to redeem herself from Resident Evil 0. She needs to prove that she is stronger than she once was. She would be by herself until, guess what? Drum roll. Billy Cohen returns. That's right. Billy Cohen returns because Resident Evil 0 happened. You can't just pretend like that didn't happen. It's here on our timeline. We're in this reality. So Sheva, who is alone at this point because guess what? Her team was separated, would guess what? Would bring everything together in greatness. Sheva meets Leon S. Kennedy. Yes, that would be a group. And then Sheva confronts Billy because Billy was a part of the massacre that killed her family. I can literally make these games for you guys. Come on. I need to be on the payroll though. The payroll. I'm patenting all this. You can't use this until I get some money. Saying it now. And then the last, because there are some people who like Ada. I, for one, can't stand her, but it's not her fault. It's because they won't stop putting her right next to Leon S. Kennedy. And then if Leon S. Kennedy isn't there, she ain't there. And if she ain't there, she ain't there. But Leon S. Kennedy is. Real interesting. Shen Mei. Real interesting. Why did they choose someone Asian? It literally could have been anybody. It had nothing to do with them. Like, changing who Shen Mei is does not change the story whatsoever. She still gets broken in half. So she could have literally been Anglo-Saxon, and it wouldn't have even been as insulting to Ada Wong, because it's just like, why do you have to have someone Asian next to Leon S. Kennedy to oogle over when she's not there? What is wrong with you guys? Why are you so sick? Why are you twisted? But all this, Ada could still be in this somehow. I personally haven't made space for her. I haven't made space for her to be in this. But guess what? She could be alone. She could be alone. There doesn't need to be a tag team. The way I have this game set up in my mind, it's not necessary because it's an online game. Anyone can join with any character depending on what part of the story you're in. But this would never come to be. This perfect world, this perfect Resident Evil 6 that I've created would never come to be because you guys don't care about the women. You don't care about your female characters. And this whole just like I said before, people talking about, well, Jill got her own game. Why can't you just be happy with the freaking scraps? Be happy with the scraps. Even though Leon S. Kennedy is the staple boy for every movie, let's just say that Claire is there somewhere sometimes. Just be happy with that. I don't think so. I will not be happy with scraps. So Resident Evil 6 was tarnished because you guys, rather than putting characters in there that we already know, that have already been established, that people care about, you put in Helen and Pierce and then Sherry Birkin. Like, anyone voted for Sherry Birkin. Who voted for Sherry Birkin to be in this? Who did? I need to know who. I need to know a name. I need to know. Now let's get into the final stretch, shall we? We're no longer going to be discussing all the great characters. Not Rebecca Chambers, not Billy Cohen. We really only discussed him once or twice. And the other one was artificial because he was never in any game following, just like Sheva, just like Carlos. Literally, Carlos could have been the person that saved Ethan. It didn't have to be Chris. At this point, Leon S. Kennedy is already the staple boy for the White Knights and the incels. By Resident Evil 7, Chris has turned into this deflated, like, washer boy that can't do anything and isn't reliable. So much so that they have a DLC dedicated to him called Not a Hero, which makes no sense logically in your own universe. Makes no logical sense for Chris Redfield to not be considered a hero. You know why he's not the hero? Because he was put against Leon S. Kennedy in Resident Evil 6. He's not a hero because he can't be the hero. There can only be one hero. Within all the super leagues and whatnot, you can talk about Batman, you can talk about Wonder Woman, but guess what? Superman is the one that they always put front and center. The Justice League, eventually he turns villain, and that would be cool to see with Leon, but regardless, they don't really realize that they're doing that anyway. Him in all the movies, he's always been this person that thinks he's holier than thou, which makes him unlikable to regular people. To the incels and the e-boys who need to cling on to something to feel like they are something, have to watch Leon and say, wow, that's what I want to be. And that's the only reason why that he's in any of these movies. Because he's got almost nothing to do with the games. You know, he's only in like 3 games. Code Veronica adds more to the overall story. Yes, it does. Than Resident Evil 4. But as I was saying, Resident Evil 7 talks about Ethan Winters and his whole issue. So, real interesting that there are 3 women in this. There are 3 women. One, Mia, his wife, who has been captured, kidnapped, whatever. Zoe, who helps Ethan. Mia tries to kill you the entire time that you play this game. She tries to kill your character, Ethan Winters, the entire time you play this game. Then we have Zoe, who was given the shaft. Once again, like all the women, they don't know what else to do other than make them cry and give them shafts. She helps your character throughout the whole game. You are given the choice between Mia, your wife who has been trying to kill you the entire time, and Zoe, a woman who has helped you the entire game from where you started to where you're going. If you decide to give this serum to Mia, your wife who has tried to kill you the entire game, Zoe dies. But then they make this whole DLC. They've been making DLC that's strange lately. From Resident Evil 2 Remake, where they're like, oh, what if scenarios? I don't care about what if scenarios. I care about what adds to the main plot. Stop giving me things I didn't ask for. But the Daughters DLC, which should have been the first part of the game, it's freaking afterthought, because people were like, how did this happen? They just wanted to sell more things, and they did. They sold it. Zoe, you get to play as Zoe, but you don't get to fight or anything. You just have to hide and run and hide. Oh, just like when you play as Mia in the main story, where all you got to do is run and hide. And then there's one time where you get to shoot, but it doesn't feel organic, because it's not about where you shoot, it's about how many times you shoot. Just like when you played as Chris Redfield in Resident Evil 8. The guns don't matter. But you give this serum to Zoe. This option, this one option they give you throughout the whole game. And I like when they give you options. This isn't the problem. The problem is it's illogical. I give this serum to Zoe because I'm smart. And I know, just because I came for this girl don't mean I gotta leave with this girl. I know Zoe has helped me and Mia has hurt me. Zoe dies if you give her the serum. She dies either way. And then the DLC makes it seem like she survives because Uncle Joe, or whatever his name is, gotta come save her. Damseled. Zoe was the one that helped Ethan throughout the whole game, and she's damseled. She's been Daphne'd. Zoinks. Jinkies. She's been Daphne'd. She's been Vicky Veiled. So for her granddaddy or grand uncle, like whatever he is to her, some country bumpkin, fighting things in the swamp with his fists and eating crap in tainted waters, gonna go save Zoe, the person that helped Ethan Winters the entire game. Nice, right? Nice. But you guys care about women, right? You care. You really care. You really care about your characters. If I sit here for 10 minutes, I could figure out 10 ways to not have had that happen. 10 ways. There's no excuse for you guys to still be doing this crap. But let's talk about the last woman in this whole situation. Marguerite Baker. She is the most grotesque. And then you put I don't know. I don't know how microaggression this is for her to have had, where you have to shoot her in between her legs. It's like insane. Why was Jack, okay, let's just put these two together, okay? Jack, the way he mutates has nothing to do with him being a man. Has nothing to do. But Marguerite's stature, it just looks like, it's gross. Code Veronica, Alexia, the way her mutation was, it made sense because she was the queen, and Queen Ant gives birth to the other ants. But I just think it's interesting that you guys continue, and it was not an homage. Don't say, well, Marguerite was an homage. You can take that and you can take that back to the bayou, because I'm not buying it. I have a strong feeling the way they made Marguerite's mutation was strictly because she was a woman. And that's not cool. Freaking, you have a mind, you have a brain, and if you don't, go find someone who does. They can make it look better than that. Why did Marguerite's mutation look so grotesque? The way that I heard streamers talking about her, it wasn't respectful, like, oh, this is a cool mutation like everybody else. It was like, oh, this is disgusting. This is gross. It's between her legs. Ew. And that's what you wanted, right? That's what you wanted. You don't care about your female characters. You don't. So, whatever. Me personally, I'm just like, whatever with Marguerite Baker, but that's just real interesting that all three of those things occurred in the same game. And then let's talk about Mia. Oh my gosh. Resident Evil 8. Resident Evil 8 has a little bit more women, but let's talk about Mia first. So, that shadow story that basically told, okay, so this is how it's going to go. I'm going to talk about this, then I'm going to talk about the rest of them. This is the biggest atrocity, the second biggest atrocity that came from Resident Evil 8. And it proves that you guys do not care about female characters. You just don't. You don't. Like, stop lying. You do not. Just fix it. That's freaking all you have to do. So this shadow story that Mother Miranda, who is pretending to be Mia, tells a story to Rosemary about the father who was hard at work doing whatever he was doing, freaking whatever. It's literally just so that we come to find out that it's Ethan. But if that's the truth, I'll get to that in a second. So the mother is with the child, and then, oh, the child ran off. Goes into the forest. She's like, oh, I'm hungry. A bat clips its wing and gives her blood. And she's like, okay. And then she goes, okay, so that's supposed to be Lady Dimitrescu, a bat. But guess what? She's a dragon for some reason. Interesting. The next one, the second one, was Donna Beneviento, who was supposed to be a spider, but I guess that was scrapped because they don't like women and they didn't want to give her the time of day to have a good boss battle. So they just threw the spider thing at the end with Mother Miranda. But the girl was like, I'm cold, so okay, the seamstress seems something. But we never see Donna Beneviento seem nothing. She gets this doll that's not even like doll based, like you would sew it. It's more like woodworking. Then the girl was hungry. This is when she was hungry. When she was thirsty, she got the blood. She was hungry. Then the fish, which is obviously, very obviously Moreau. So he took his fin and gave it to her and she ate. And it's disgusting, but it's just like, yeah, that happened. Moreau actually got to speak to Ethan more than, don't, I can't let you leave. Like, more than just that. More than just getting killed by this random thing. He wasn't immortal like Lady Dimitrescu. And he was treated with dignity because we actually had to do a boss battle with him. I actually enjoyed his boss battle. It actually felt like somewhat of Resident Evil. But when you sexist, you blind to good things. You don't see a good thing when you see it in Donna Beneviento, but you're going to put everything in the kitchen sink in with Heisenberg, who is next. And then it would have been really cool if there was a spider boss, not a just click it and go mini game. It was a mini game. So I think it's interesting. Here we go. Lady Beneviento, she was done dirty because we literally get nothing from her. Nothing. We get stuff from the doll, but we get nothing from her except one line. She literally says one line throughout the whole thing. And it's cool because guess what? You gave 2 women a job, and that's nice. I love when women get jobs, but I just think it makes no sense that even the one that is in Japanese, the woman who plays the character also plays the doll's voice. Why did you give her 2 different voices? Just makes it seem like you're playing games. It's games at this point. So, interestingly enough, Lady Beneviento, whom got nothing, no dialogue between Ethan. Even Moreau got banter. Even Moreau got banter. The lowest of the low. And he was a pretty hard boss. I died like twice. Interestingly, even though Moreau is supposed to be hideous and horrible and disgusting, y'all gave him more than my girl Beneviento. She didn't get no boss battle. She got a mini game. It was a mini game. It was just as hard as those little teeter-totter game that you try to have us play with a ball to get more money for the Duke, who shouldn't even be in this game, but whatever. I like the Duke as a character. I just don't like the whole aspect of having to buy things in a survivor horror game. Like, honestly, can we stop with that? Just because it was in Resident Evil 4 and y'all did disgusting things in that game? No thanks, bro. I don't want it. So, Beneviento is a woman of this freaking crap. The next one, guess what? Heisenberg. Heisenberg is a horse. Horsepower. We get it. It's cheeky. He gets to talk about how Lady Domitresque is a B word while she's dead when she can't hear him. Interesting. Calling her out her name. And we get more dialogue between him than with Beneviento. So let's just put Beneviento on the shelf of shelved, backseated people, backseated women of the Capcom universe. Y'all are really racking up the bill on that, honestly. So let's go back to Mia. Back to Mia. So if the story is not about Mother Miranda and her daughter being separated, because I actually thought that was the story, but turns out supposedly because there's a witch at the end, she's the witch, and her story about her daughter coming back has nothing to do with it. Makes no sense. Stupid. Like I said, dum-dums. It seems like you're doing 3 different things at once. You're trying to make us believe that Mother Miranda is somebody who we should care about, but we get no dialogue between her just when she's in little old lady mode, and then she talks about herself in the 3rd person, giving us no indication that she is Mother Miranda, other than the fact that we just saw Mother Miranda kill somebody in the field, and then 2 steps later, 2 steps past that field, old lady's there. What am I supposed to think? Freaking duh, that's Mother Miranda. You guys are so stupid to think that we didn't think that. And then you're going to sit here and then be like, well, we're going to tell you this story and we're going to say that these are the lords, but don't think of it as the lords because Lady Domitresque was not a bat. She was not a bat in her final form. She was a dragon. And if you thought that was cooler, then you should have made the bat into a dragon into the story. You freaking idiots. You made Donna Beneviento some creature, some baby thing that people are more afraid of than the actual whole thing because it's just creepy. You stole from 10 different games that are better than this one to make that whole group, that whole collective sideline story. We get nothing of Donna Beneviento's past except things that we have to find in game. We don't get nothing between her and Ethan, even though you'd think that losing someone in her life would make her more empathetic of Ethan's situation. I heard word on the street is y'all were supposed to make this girl into a medic or something. That would have been cool. That would have been a nod to Rebecca Chambers because she's like the only freaking medic that y'all even talk about. And she barely gets talked about. But she straight up would have been a great doctor. If we were going to buy things from the Duke, it would have been nice to buy things from Donna Beneviento. Maybe she wouldn't have no horse in the game. Why were they all evil? Why'd they all have to die? You could have eventually killed her, but in a boss battle. You could have still did the nighttime thing that you did at the end for Mother Miranda for her, instead of putting everything and the kitchen sink at the end. Literally, that girl had like 5 forms. I was like, when is this going to be done? And that could have been an homage to Alexia, but guess what? One shot with that Magnum, and she was already in her 2nd form. So don't give me that crap. Take that to someone who doesn't know Resident Evil lore. because it's not going to happen here. So you shafted Donna Beneviento. You shafted Mother Miranda because we barely see her until the end. So it's like, why do we care about her? We care about Wesker because we care about Wesker. We freaking care about Alfred, which we don't. And we all know why we don't. But we are invested in the Ashfords, but we're happy when we kill them. Like, I was not happy to kill Mother Miranda. I still needed something more from her. And to top it all off, icing on the cake, Mother Miranda can't even exist on her own. You put Mother Miranda right next to Spencer. So it's like now Spencer connects her to the lore, not herself. Not herself. She couldn't even exist on her own. So freaking thanks. She's up on the shelf. Mia's up on the shelf because we don't even get to play as her in this. She's like, once you have a baby, women are nothing, good for nothing but being damsels. She was a damsel. Just to let you know, Mia was once again a damsel. Ethan had to go save her. It was nice to see that she actually had some gumption and she was like taking a chainsaw to his face. That was cool. That was nice. Because we barely get to see women do anything other than being damsels. Cry. So it was cool to see Mia actually do something. We didn't even get to play as her as a creature, and that was fine because I didn't need to.
Maybe it would have been interesting to do that in a DLC or something, but we get Jack. Let's feed Jack Baker for his 50th birthday or something. That was the dumbest DLC they ever put out. That was the dumbest. I liked the Lost Tapes. I did not like the Jack Baker's birthday thing where you got to feed him. That was disgusting. What was that even for? Who was that for? Acid. Y'all on acid.
We don't even get to play as her. We don't get to do anything in this game with her. She just has mom body, like after having a baby, and you act like she can't do nothing but sit in a cage. She's like, oh, she did experiments. What experiments? Like, yeah, okay, whatever. If you're going to play the game where, oh, she's traumatized, she doesn't want to talk about it. Chris is BSAA. Maybe if he knew the experiments, maybe he could figure something out. He's BSAA. That's his job. His job is to talk about all this crap. Like, whatever. You're just making excuses for Capcom. Make excuses. Keep going. The whole story is supposed to be about Mia Winters and Ethan Winters and Rosemary. And that's this whole story. Rather than Mother Miranda being the mom who lost her baby and it being a whole circle around thing. Like, you don't understand. Make her sympathetic. She's just evil for evil's sake. And she's evil at the end. It's just like, what? Are you serious? It's like, interesting. Okay, whatever. I didn't need her to. You don't need to make girls cry to give them character. So don't say that that's what it is. Just because she didn't cry doesn't make me like not care about her. You can do something else. And if you can't, find someone who does. Thanks. So if the story was supposed to be about Mia protecting and doing all that, why is it that the mother gets no shine in this game? And are we doing the DLC? Are we doing the DLC dance where we're going to play as Mia in the DLC? That should have been in the game, son. Should have been in the game. DLC is for things, it's downloadable content, not content that should have already been in the game. It's downloadable. You shouldn't have to download it to understand everything else that was in the game. It should stand alone. Best examples of freaking DLC, Skyrim's DLCs. All the Skyrim DLCs, you don't need it. It makes the game better. You don't have to put that to understand what happens in the whole game. You can play Skyrim from beginning, middle to end, every single quest if it hasn't glitched out on you, and still be good and not have to play the DLC. The DLC is downloadable, not required. Download. Use scrubs. Regardless, what is in the game is subpar at best. Mia Winters is on the shelf because you gave her nothing to do but cry and be just a woman and just dainty and damseled. You damselized her. Let's talk about the biggest atrocity. And y'all knew this was coming. Lady Dimitrescu single-handedly, not even with the girl, not even with her daughters, single-handedly by herself sold all the copies of Resident Evil 8 that you sold. Maybe a small percentage of the people who bought this game only bought it because they were Resident Evil fans. You know how many people who have never heard of Resident Evil bought the game because of Lady Dimitrescu? Almost all of them. So don't even get giddy and happy and Oh, thank you, fans. You don't care about the fans. You don't care about the fans. Because if you did, where's Jill Valentine in a movie? If you did, why was Claire sidelined in Infinite Darkness? If you did, why is all this happening? Why did you kill off Lady Domitresque with this ex machina knife that gets thrown into a ditch? That she should have thrown that thing into a ditch. She should have broke that thing in 9 different pieces. She should have melted it down and put it into the ground so no one could ever put it on her. Why was it in her house? It would have been interesting to have taken that knife from, what if Heisenberg was actually, I can't even believe the fact that Heisenberg was pretending and, oh, I'm just testing you out, seeing if you're worthy. No. Y'all did the bait and switch with Heisenberg. You made it seem like he was actually going to kill him. And regardless, if he, has power or control over the Lycans, supposedly, based on the beginning, why are they trying to kill him still? I think he just got scared because Ethan was killing everybody and he was just like, you know what, I'm just going to pretend that I'm on your side. We don't even get a chance. If y'all did that whole thing in Resident Evil 7 where you have to choose between Zoe and Mia to give the injection to, why weren't we given the option to say yes or no to Heisenberg? Why did Ethan make that decision for us? Why were there no decisions like that in this game? You already started the trend, and now when we ask for the trend, it's not there. Stupid. It would have been interesting if Ethan Winters would have gotten that knife from maybe someone who is into metalwork. Heisenberg, maybe? It just made no logical sense for Lady Domitresque to be that stupid to put the only thing that can kill her in her house. For one, that makes her look stupid. For two, she's the first boss we kill. She's stronger than them all. You try to kill Lady Domitresque the first time you meet her, and she literally just adjusts her hat and keeps on stepping. Literally. She's the strongest. And you make her basically a tutorial boss. Lady Domitresque is a tutorial boss for the rest of the game. You know how I know that? Because when you go to the Duke, he's like, well, you have ended her life. You have to go to the other 3. The first, the second, the third. Heisenberg. Honestly, could you please spare me Capcom does care about women characters. Spare me. They don't. And I've proven it. From 0 to 8, I have proven it. There's nothing you can say against those arguments. I barely scratched the surface of these stupid Leon Chronicle movies that they've made. Honestly, if you want my opinion about those, go on my channel, check out my reviews of all of the Resident Evil movies. The only thing anyone could say is, oh, you're nitpicking here and there. Here and there. I have given valid reasons why I believe Capcom does not care about their characters. Women characters. They don't. They risked the successfulness of Resident Evil 6 just to tarnish 3 of them. Jill, Claire, and Rebecca. They were snubbed from that game. They were. The only reason why Ada Wong was allowed access to that game was because Leon S. Kennedy was in that game. They still wanted us to be baited into thinking that they're gonna kiss or something. I'm not here for it. I was here for Cleon. I'm not here for that anymore. I'm here for Claire, okay? And I was not going to make this, but I literally got the strength to make this video from all the cries. I was chilling on Mount Crumpet, and I was the Grinch, and I put my ear out to the sky, and I heard people boo, boo, boo. I heard them cry. And I'm like, why are they crying? I did not steal Christmas yet. I didn't steal Christmas yet. So I walked down to Whoville and come to find out, people, e-boys, incels, they're all gathering around He-Man. And turns out He-Man, supposedly, spoiler for anyone who wants to watch it. I haven't seen it. I've only seen hearsay. I've only heard hearsay. Okay? Supposedly, word on the street is He-Man was remade, and supposedly this dude dies in the first episode, And maybe he comes back on the 5th. Something to do with the 1st and 5th episodes people are really upset about. And I keep seeing all these guys talk about, oh, it's supposed to be about He-Man. I remember when He-Man was about He-Man. I remember when Resident Evil cared about Claire Redfield and Jill Valentine being in their games. I remember that. I do. I just think we're at two different positions here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit in the middle. I'm not here to tell any person who is making video games to shelve their male protagonists. I would love if Leon S. Kennedy got to sit down, because he hasn't sat down in years. Y'all have been putting him on the silver screen for years. I would love it if he freaking took a seat for a second and let somebody, even Chris, have his own movie. But what I am saying is put more effort into these female characters. Put more effort. Do not halt your efforts on the male characters. Increase your efforts on the female ones. Hire female writers if you can't get the job done. If you are incompetent, hire someone else to do it, because it's not working. From Resident Evil 0 to Resident Evil 8, you have lacked any form of equality. Just because they're there, just because women are there, doesn't mean it's equal. Does not mean it's equal. It's not. You consider women side characters at all times. But the moment men like He-Man in his own franchise gets sidelined for a female protagonist, the whole world goes up in flames for some reason. Even if it's not true, because I haven't seen it, the fact that people are reacting that way as if it was shows their mentality. It's all silent when Resident Evil 6 has this crazy, strange, random woman, Helen, and Sherry Birkin, whom we haven't seen in about 7+ years, and snubs characters that we have known for those years. Jill, Claire, Rebecca. Rebecca was in the first game. She should have more relevance to the whole series than Leon S. Kennedy, but for some reason, Leon has been put before them all. The way that people may feel about He-Man being replaced for a female protagonist is the same way we've been feeling. We've been feeling. Sheva Alomar has not been there. It was just one game and that's it. Toss her to the side, just like Carlos. And Carlos is a different situation that I've already discussed. Link is in the description of that video. But nonetheless, we are just as mad and even more mad because this doesn't usually happen to male characters. Yes, there's Girl Pac-Man. Yes, there's She-Ra. But it doesn't usually happen with male characters. Everyone still universally prefers the male counterpart. When we get that happening to us, when we get the limelight, the world is in shambles. What does that mean? You know what that means. I'm done. Subscribe if you like if you like, share if you like. Let's have a conversation in the comments about this. This will be interesting, won't it? Happy 23 years. I guess there's not really that much hoorah about it anyway. Just wanted to talk about this because it's like 20 years. We are no longer going to take the bare minimum. We are no longer going to accept the bare minimum from Capcom. And with that, I'm done.